All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, if you ever watch NBA Countdown with Paul Pierce, Michelle Beadle, and Jalen Rose, you'll quickly find out that Paul Pierce is trying to style himself as a younger version of Charles Barkley with many of his pseudo-ridiculous hot takes. But this hot take that he had here on LeBron James is not that ridiculous unless you're concerned with making sure that some of your more higher-paying customers are getting what they're paying for. And that's the real reason why they're going to try to push for the playoffs. The Lakers I'm talking about is because they know that they have stars in the front row. It's been many years since they made the playoffs, and they want to get that old feeling back coming into next season because you never know. They may not even be able to trade for Anthony Davis going into next season, so LeBron might have to make sure that he can build up the character and the playoff experience of many of his young apprentices right now. But just getting back to Paul Pierce, he says that he would shut LeBron James down for the season. We know that they can't have that. LeBron can't even have that, because then it looks like his first season in LA was a complete failure. And coming into the season, the goal was to make the playoffs. If LeBron does not make the playoffs at 34 years old, that's a big time chink in his armor, because remember, he keeps trying to compare himself to Jordan. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I would shut LeBron down.
What?
I mean, like, no, seriously.
Rachel Nichols said, what?
Seriously, I mean, he's getting older. He has to do too much for them to win. I mean, just look at, he puts out a triple-double.
No, not really. Actually, all LeBron James has to do for them to win is play a little defense.
And they can't win. I mean, just imagine if he really goes out and really exerts himself and has to go for
You're giving up on the season now.
I mean, this season was a wash coming into it. They weren't contending. And when you're...
That's true, but he has to make the playoffs, Paul Pierce. We're talking about LeBron James. It's not a regular player.
LeBron James,
Hold on.
they weren't contending from the jump.
They weren't contending from the jump on the jump.
I've never done this before because I got enough jobs.
You've never done what? Spoke the truth?
Okay? I got enough jobs, and I'm a very busy man, and I love...
Stephen A. Smith is like, it's like them Jamaicans on The Living Color. He got 47 job.
I love Rachel Nichols and the job that she does on the jump. And I'm in LA all the time. Damn it, they need to bring me on the show. The blasphemy. At first it was Scottie Pippen and T-Mac talking about sit Zion down. Just quit.
And they were correct.
Just quit on your team. In the middle of the season, just quit. Just quit. Now Paul Pierce with LeBron. How much does LeBron get paid? They were $35 million. Sit down. Sit down. Just don't even worry. Season, 22 games left. All right? Still in the hunt for a playoff spot. And Paul Pierce is saying, a Hall of Famer. My brother, I love these brothers. T-Mac, Pippen, Paul Pippen, up with love for the truth. The truth shall make you free. That's supposed to be Paul Pierce. And you go on and jump, and you sit up there and say, sit down, LeBron James.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, not to cut off your very entertaining diatribe, but let's be for real. The reason why Paul Pierce is saying this is because he's a recently retired NBA superstar or former superstar. So he knows what he's looking at a lot better than you or I know what we're looking at. We can tell that LeBron has a lot of tread on the tires, but Paul Pierce is looking at him like a car who's about to reach the very end of his odometer. Like he's as Uncle Jimmy said on my favorite show, Speak for Yourself. He said, with LeBron James, the check light is on. That's a used car, and Magic Johnson did not check the mileage on that car. If you push LeBron James too hard in a meaningless season, in a season where they're not going to go anywhere, you never know what might happen. He might blow a tire, meaning what? An Achilles might pop. And if LeBron James' Achilles pops, his career is pretty much over.
Best player in the world, supposedly. Best player in the world.
Sit down, be humble.
Sit down. Paul Pierce.
That's right.
Oh my God. I mean, listen. I got to show up on the job. The blasphemy. Only Rachel Nichols seems to not be blasphemous. Everybody else that shows up on her show appears to be blasphemous. What the things that they're saying makes no sense.
That's right. Well, there's no such thing as blasphemy in sports, Stephen A., because you're assuming that there is some kind of holy truth.
Absolutely. I agree with you, sir. School him.
That no one can speak against, even if the evidence points that way.
Agreed.
Sit down.
Paul Pierce
Be humble.
is simply reflecting this truth. The truth is reflecting this truth. 35 mil, LeBron already made that for the Lakers like by the fourth week of the season.
Absolutely. With all the tickets sold, the apparel sold, he's already made that back. But I understand what Stephen A. Smith is getting at. What Steve is getting at is there's an image and an aura around LeBron that's going to be very badly hurt if he sits out the rest of the season and they don't make the playoffs.
Season. It's not about he hasn't earned his money. It's not about this year winning a championship. They were never going to contend for a championship this year.
Then why play at all?
But what about the next 3 years?
Well, what was he going to do, Steve? He's just going to sit out the season and wait on Anthony Davis? Like, come on. He had to play.
That's what he's saying. I saw Kobe Bryant when they got Dwight Howard and Pau Gasol and Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. I saw Kobe Bryant decide at a certain point, we're not missing the playoffs, and will the team to the playoffs, and he ended his career in the process.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying Paul Pierce isn't a Celtics double agent.
And isn't it strange? Isn't it strange? Kobe was 34 when that happened, just like LeBron James. But, Max just alluded to something here, because I was going to bring that up at the beginning of the video. We have to remember that Paul Pierce, he is a double agent. He played for the Boston Celtics, but he's from the LA area. So there may be a method to his madness. There may be some Machiavellian tactics going on here with Paul Pierce, where he's trying to hamstring both LeBron and the Lakers. Let me rewind this back a little bit.
Agent, his career in the process. Now, I'm not saying Paul Pierce isn't a Celtics double agent. He clearly is. However, so yes, there's some haterade that he is sipping on right there.
Love Paul,
however, what he's saying, Jalen, there is some wisdom.
Max said he's sipping on some haterade. He must have got it out of your mug.
I can't wait to get the countdown on Friday to say this to him personally.
Please speak.
But I agree with you for all of the reasons you said, and I'm going to take it in a different direction. We've entered into a unique space in sports where when people feel like your team isn't the favorite to win the championship, you should just quit and not compete.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
We don't appreciate the journey anymore. Nobody cares about the regular season or who wins the division or who wins the conference.
Play spoiler,
it's all
knock
about
people
how many
out.
chips do you got, and since we can't win, we gonna shut it down. It's still a chance that they can get the A spot. Ain't they only 3 games out of the A spot? Didn't we say LeBron is
I'm
box
gonna take a
office?
picture.
Right, but we know what's going to happen. They're going to get to the A spot and they're going to get blitzkrieged. I understand both points. All right, I understand both points. It's just that LeBron is going to have to moderate himself, because I could see himself trying to go all out in his quest to make the playoffs. Because remember, they like to talk about how, Jordan got swept out of the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. So LeBron does not want to put himself in the position where he's not even going to make the playoffs. This is about his legacy. That's what it's really about.
Didn't you say LeBron James is the best player in the
Can I
world?
shoot this
Nice
down?
picture. Max, do you want to get the
I
picture?
love you,
So you
man.
mean to tell me LeBron James the best player in the world? That's all.
Wait a minute. Stephen A. Smith trying to put a part in... Did he have his barber try to put a part in that hair of his? I mean, shit. That's way back. That's behind his ear.
Already missed 18 games.
Jalen.
That's already
Jalen, you are making a valuable point. I believe you're making a valuable point. In this case, I think it's misplaced, and I'll tell you why. LeBron James, even if they make it to the playoffs, they're not going anywhere this year. But given the number of miles on his knees...
Agreed. That's the real issue. I'm all for go for the gusto and play every game like this your last, but when you're 34 years old and you have as much mileage as LeBron James has on his legs, I'm a firm believer that we have to evaluate things on a singular basis. We can't just utilize group think for group scenarios. It has to be a singular basis. When it comes to people like LeBron James, Zion Williamson, they're different. They're special. They're singular. They have to be evaluated on a singular basis from a certain perspective, because what they do is going to have a reverberation for everyone around them. It's not like, they're Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown and you say just go all out, let's make the playoffs and be happy. With LeBron James, they have to make sure that they can get something out of him for 3 more years.
He's on his legs, right? And the fact that he has a groin injury, he's come off groin injury, and you have him for 3 more years. And you have a chance to contend and maybe win a championship over the next 3 years because of LeBron. Why would you risk that over probably not making the playoffs?
How about this? Number one, you want LeBron to play so that the guys you tried to trade this year, you heighten their value by putting them on a playoff stage.
Oh,
That's a very good point. That's a great point.
okay.
Number one.
That's a reason.
Right. For number two, for LeBron James, when you're the leader and you're the best player, you have to be that on the floor, not in the boardroom,
Keep
not
going.
in the locker room. You got to show up and play the actual
You're a good hype
game,
man, Stephen A.
regardless of the scenario. And lastly, When we talk about LeBron having to do too much and average a triple-double, that's what he's supposed to do.
Agreed. I agree. I agree with you, Jalen Rose. To whom much is given, much is required.
That's what he's supposed to do, right? That's what he's supposed to do. This is ridiculous.
Well, you can stand on principle, and then maybe you don't have LeBron for the next 3 years.
We got LeBron, really? We got the whole season?
No.
What season?
Kobe's
5 months?
Achilles snapped when he played so many minutes to play him into the playoffs.
It wasn't just the minutes that Kobe played, it was the way in which he played. Kobe went 100 on both ends. I'm going to trust that LeBron is smart enough to not go 100 on both ends. From what I've seen thus far, he's going about 80% on offense and 0% on defense. So he should be okay going into the playoffs, but we'll find out. I do get your point, Max Kellerman, though. I get your point. And I get Paul Pierce's point as well.
Oh, so now we worried about the Achilles snapper. I'm telling you right now, next time I'm in LA, I'm going to walk outside the jump, have the camera, remember, walk outside the jump with a picket sign. I mean, for Paul Pierce and Pippen and T-Mac.
For the record, I don't think they should shut him down. And I think Paul Pierce is a Celtics double agent. I'm just saying.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, sometimes you have to be able to speak from a multitude of perspectives. That's why I say myself, LeBron James should play, but he's going to have to moderate himself. The issue is that the only reason why he wants to play is because he knows that he needs to make the playoffs in his first season. This is really about, their constituencies, the followings, the fans, the investors. He has to make the playoffs his first year there because, remember, that's also going to bode well for him in many of his off-the-court endeavors.
I'm just saying what he's saying is not so off the wall.
I agree. And I agree on the same level as Max Kellerman. I would also play LeBron James, but what Paul Pierce said was not off the wall at all.
Hey, Stephen A., you're going to like this one. So, say, for example, the Lakers go on a good win streak, and they end up falling at the 6th or the 7th spot.
That's right.
Because they're only like 3.5
That's right, 3.5 games out.
So you mean to tell me it's not worth LeBron James' team making the playoffs to play against the
No,
Nuggets?
in fact, I think...
Well, here's the problem with that, Jalen Rose. Number one, you were on this same show a couple of weeks ago, and you said that LeBron James is not the player that he was, and that the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs. Now, all of a sudden, you have them possibly making the 6th or the 7th seed. We know that that's not going to happen. So let's just stop. You should just quit while you were ahead. You made a very compelling argument. You did a very good job. But anyway, we'll see what happens with LeBron James. I do like what Paul Pierce said because even though it was a bit extreme, sometimes you have to go to an extreme level to get an extreme response. So peace.